Welcome to FiST Chat, your source for news and discussions in film science and technology, hosted by Steve Kern and Ben Warner. Visit our website at fistchat.com. Hi there everyone and welcome to FiST Chat, your vodcast on film science and technology topics. My name's Ben Warner and I'm joined once again by my good friend and colleague Steve Kern. Have we recovered from the heat this week, Steve? It was definitely hot where we are in Melbourne, and Adelaide sounded pretty bad too.
Yeah, it's been a very warm week, FiST Chat fans. I can barely wave. It's been taxing.
Absolutely, and even though it's only 23 degrees here today, the humidity is so strong because we had fairly strong rain overnight. It might as well be 40 degrees again. But anyway, we're inside now. It's all nice and cool, and we can get stuck into our FiST Chat topics for this week. All right, we'll get straight into it. Now we've talked about social media and getting sort of a presence and all that sort of thing. A story that I saw just recently was in a coffee shop. Actually, I just saw it on a paper sitting on the side table. It was on the front page. It was crowdsourcing via click farms overseas, and I googled it, and all the news outlets were following it, so everyone's picked it up. But the one that I picked up was from itwire.com. It was Channel 4, the British TV network, ran a story where they discovered a whole industry of fraudulent social media likes and clicks. Many Twitter followers and Facebook friends are low-paid workers in click farms in Bangladesh and other developing countries. And
you can tell by their comments, Ben.
Yeah, that's right. The English doesn't look quite right. And it got me thinking, I guess, about the perceived popularity of any sort of site on the net. And, obviously it relates to us too, because, we have a fairly strong presence on a lot of social media sites and a website and YouTube and whatever else, and all of our content's there. And we want, obviously real people to check into our any one of our channels and hopefully get something out of the content that we provide. And maybe if they really like it, then they can keep following it. And I don't know about you, Steve, but I'm pretty sure I want those people to be real rather than, than fraudulent, so to speak.
Well, I think, Ben, we can safely say that our followers probably are real. I mean, we've had some interesting commentaries over the years that, have been a little bit pointed and heated at times. And I don't think Click Factory people stir up that sort of emotion.
Yeah, it's not. I know they're not paid to have opinions.
It's kind of like, when you get comments like, "Hi, click here for some cheap shoes," that you wonder whether or not they're real or not. But, I don't want to get down on our news services uncovering stories like this, because these are real issues now, especially, Facebook and Twitter are public companies. Do they have real users? That is a real issue. But this has been going on since the start of the web. Click factories for hits. My new website, in Netscape, has just had 100,000 hits, and it's going to be something that just keeps on happening. People always want to boost the number of interactions that they have on the web, because while there is a community within the online presence of the internet that is, genuine about connecting, about real interactions. The web has now also become home to business, and traffic numbers, interactions are the metrics they use. So the more of them that happen, the better it is for the people that make money on the net.
Well, the other thing too, of course, is that the web, social media sites, whatever channels you're using, it's not very tangible in the sense of, we have interactions with some of our listeners, but at the same time, we can't, for the most part, literally go over and talk to them face to face. With a lot of these things, if a site is using click farms to generate seeming popularity.
Yeah.
From the outside, we probably wouldn't know one way or the other whether that's real or not. And maybe that doesn't matter because it's just the perception of popularity. If people then see, oh, this site's popular, they might then maybe real people might start going over there and checking it out.
Exactly. I'd like to know, did they explain a little bit more about how these click farms work? I mean, is it just a room full of individuals with, laptops or tablets or phones just tethered, independently, and they just sit around liking things on Facebook all day, or?
Well, I mean, we haven't seen the doco, but according to the article, it's basically they're getting paid, could be like $1 for 1,000 Facebook likes, that kind of deal.
So you bring your own mobile phone to work effectively and just click like.
Well, I'm not sure if they'd be willing to pay for something as expensive as a smartphone. Maybe just a cheap netbook would probably do. And, they set them up seemingly in these, factory-esque offices, and off they go. Whether you like it or not, I mean, we welcome everyone to go out and go onto Google and, maybe type in buy Facebook likes and see what comes up. You'll probably get a whole bunch of sites that look really legit, but you may have to question maybe where, the source of all that's coming from, especially if this doco's right.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to give away my social media secrets, but I'm a bit of a click factory. It's interesting that these click farms are seen as bad, but a lot of us actually do just click away ourselves. Yeah. We're real people, but we just click away. We don't even, nice photo, click like, glass of cold beer, share, that sort of thing. So, I think that this is what I find so interesting about it. While sure these are literally farms, they're not necessarily individuals that have a real connection to some of the content. To a large extent, I think that we all, go beyond the real connection to the content at times, depending on our personalities. So it's a very interesting topic, and it does make you wonder, where it will lead. Can you imagine them ever, like banning click farms?
Well, it's perhaps looking at it from a different point of view, rather than banning the click farms, even though this doco is kind of suggesting that they're sort of like the equivalent of sweatshops, but maybe that's just what the angle that they took. As a different sort of example, Google's
I don't get paid anything to click like, Ben.
Yeah, that's right.
Probably making more than me.
Say, for example, Google has its AdSense program where publishers can supposedly make money from running advertising on their page, and they ban publishers if Google detects fraudulent clicks on to sort of artificially inflate their revenue. But on the flip side, and this is something the doco mentions too, is that sites like Facebook and Twitter, which are newer to this rather than Google, because Google's sort of the one that sort of started all of this, they've sort of taken, sort of turning a blind eye to it. Apparently I haven't read it, but in the terms and conditions, it apparently says that they don't permit this kind of use, but it's not like policed in a way that's sort of very stringent. Will these companies actually decide at some stage that they're going to crack down on it? And what will that mean in the future? Are we going to only be able to get genuine likes then, or are we going to have some other way of generating these fraudulent clicks?
Oh, I guess the thing is someone will come up with a piece of software that just, excludes. I mean, within Google Analytics, you could already, if you wanted to, but of course you'd be analysing traffic on your own site. Yeah. But within the analytic tools, you could already, remove those and find that. I think, potentially it comes down to when it's business, it's a question of auditing. Yeah. And, you've got to open up your analytics so the auditors can see where and how. And I think actually that's the pressure that Facebook and Twitter will come under, is the fact that the shareholders will actually want to see the analytics. Where are these clicks and people coming from? And, you can't hide their location.
Well, isn't that important for business? Like they have to quantify exactly where their target market is. And
it is, but in the lead up to the IPO, Facebook was very vague, and I think so was Twitter. they're very vague on the number of current users. I mean, Twitter keeps sending me emails at the moment, thanks so much for using Twitter, and I haven't used Twitter for a long time.
just in case you forgot.
But I guess if I open the email, that counts as an interaction.
Yeah, exactly. All right, we might move on. It's interesting and something we can return to, I think, because it's just going to become a sort of more prevalent thing, and it's something that we were discussing just before we got on too, that the nature of a lot of these social media sites has changed compared to what it was in the beginning. So Facebook is a good example. It was the social media site for all of us, to sort of interact, and now it's a big corporation because it's been floated and they've got different priorities now. So just remember that, kids. All right, let's move on to our news bites. The world of film, what are we talking about today? It's from theguardian.com. Women's employment levels in film industry in decline. And there was a report done by the Center for the Study of Women in Television and Film at San Diego State University showing that just 16% of behind-the-scenes personnel staffing the top 250 grossing films of 2013 were women. And the year before it was 18%. Women in film's been an interesting sort of thing to follow, in that obviously it's been an industry predominantly, historically, been male-driven. Yeah. Do you think that there's that kind of discrimination there, or I mean, obviously, or is it some? Do you think that, say, for example, there'd be 50% of, say, they could get to 50% or something like that?
Look, it's one of those things that it's the nature of the beast, and we've got friends who work in the film industry, female friends who work in the film industry, and it's a brutal business at the best of times. Yeah. And I just think that it's, yes, I think that I think it's very tough for a woman within the film industry, if you're not in front of the camera, to sort of get ahead. But then it's tough for everyone because it's not a pretty industry. No. And I don't know how you go about rectifying it. Some of the most talented, producers that I've known have been women, because they're very good people. Yeah. And they're very good at negotiating the deals, or a lot of the things that happen, actually on the set, that we know what goes on behind the scenes. Yeah. But do they get credit for it? I'm not sure they always do. And I don't think like any sort of very specialised and very niche industry, which filmmaking is, it's more about testosterone and pissing competitions than actually getting the job done. If it was about getting the job done, then we'd probably have a lot better films out of Hollywood.
Exactly. And that actually is a good point, contrasting it with different industries like you just did then. Yeah. That there would be other industries where there'd probably be greater representation because it's more about getting the work done, so to speak. And and as you said, the film industry is full of a lot of stuff that we really could do without. And it may be that's just, like you said, the nature of the beast.
Look, it's it's historical, isn't it? And I can certainly tell you, I think television's probably one of the last areas of employment or workplaces where people are allowed to scream at each other and call each other's names, and no sane person wants to work in environments like that.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we'll move on to our science news bite from the ABC. Jellyfish flying machine keeps upright. Scientists have built the first ever flying machine that is capable of stable hovering simply by flapping its wings using a movement similar to that of a swimming jellyfish. That's not really.
Have Amazon heard about this, Ben?
Oh yeah. So all of their drones will turn into jellyfish, or they'll probably sting you when they fall on you. This isn't really unheard of. This idea that taking cues from nature in designing machines and that sort of thing. I mean, obviously nature's probably the best designer, so why not take some inspiration from it?
Well, there's an interesting fallback to Australia's America's Cup victory in 1983, I think it was, or 82, where they had the winged kill. And the way Ben Lexon worked out the winged kill was actually the fact that, water behaves just like air, The only differential is the density of water versus the density of air. So once again, the jellyfish stability of these legs doing this help the jellyfish stabilize in a aqueous or water-based environment.
Yeah. And
so all they're doing is they're taking that exact same principle and applying it to aerodynamics. So it's, you know, it's not actually like a fish out of, well, it is a fish out of water kind of scenario, but exactly the same things. You just have to balance the density of water versus the density of air.
Well, hopefully
it should work theoretically.
Hopefully they won't be used as version 2 of Amazon's drones at any rate. All right, and finally...
Just imagine, Ben, there could be a book on the end of each tentacle.
So multiple deliveries at once. Fantastic. Can't wait. All right, and finally our tech news bite. Threshold to be called Windows 9 ships in April 2015. Microsoft tries to put Windows 8 in the rearview mirror. So this is from the winsupersite.com. Paul Thurrott's a regular Windows news follower, and he kind of knows his stuff about this sort of thing. I mean, we all kind of knew that Windows 8 was on shaky ground pretty much from the day it started. I've used it pretty much since then, and it is quite good. And now with Windows 8.1, you can completely forget that Metro exists at all, which is probably what everyone wants. But he actually, Paul Thurrott actually makes the point that you know, it's a little bit like Vista in the sense that I think Windows 8 was better than Vista, but the point is that it set Microsoft back, and it may have set it back by years, and has it set it back for good? That's the real question here.
Well, that is a very good question. It is exactly the same as what happened with Vista, except Vista was terrible. Windows 8 wasn't. But
maybe from a marketing perspective, it was in the end.
Yeah, but look, the thing is that quite simply, the people who make the decisions grew up with Windows XP. And they wanted Windows 7 to be like Windows XP, and now they're going to want Windows 9 to be like Windows 7.
Yep.
and maybe it explains why Apple won't take that big leap and really revamp
OS
their
10.
OS.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because really, you know, the jump from System 9 to System 10 for the Apple to OS X, by the time they got to the second edition of OS X, it was back almost like OS 9.
Yeah. It brings back that user functionality that people want.
And I think people are creatures of habit, you know. Even if the start button is there, if you hover the mouse, you know, if it doesn't look like it's there, some people just can't go.
Well, maybe
I don't know what else to say, Ben.
But it's an interesting thing. I think computers, PCs in their current form, Mac or otherwise, will probably still continue in their current form. And it's like Steve Jobs said, they turn into trucks. They become specialized devices, and there may still be a need for it to have a user interface that looks like that. And it makes sense to have a user interface that looks like that. Obviously, going into the tablet world, where maybe in the future people are, you know, most normal people will be using tablets. That's where Microsoft may be in a bit of bother, in that they need to be able to sell their Metro interface so that people will buy tablets for that, and people are not on board on that. So they better have a better, you know, sort of strategy for selling that to customers.
Absolutely.
All right, we might wrap it up there. So thanks again, Steve, for the chat.
Thanks, Ben. Thanks, FiST Chat fans. Let's hope it's a little bit cooler next week, but we'll have more great topics, I'm sure.
Absolutely. Don't forget, everyone, our website, FiSTCHOT.com. You can get all of our links and content there. And don't forget, the FiST reports are going to be available very, very soon, any tick of the clock now. So the new edition. You can still get the old edition, of course, at FiSTreport.com. And recommend us to anyone who you think may be interested in following our weekly discussions in film science and technology, of course, if they're interested in that sort of thing. So until our next episode, we'll catch you then.